As the official state church, the Church of England is still led by the English monarch today, keeping with the traditions established about 600 years ago. The Church of England continues to capture people's attention today. Its beautiful cathedrals across England attract thousands of tourists yearly to marvel at their engineering and artistic craftsmanship. This denomination serves as the original Anglican Church, which has since spread worldwide and has over 85 million people involved today. This global force began under King Henry VIII of the Tudor dynasty for less than devout reasons. King Henry VIII is famous today for his 6 wives. His obsession with procuring a male heir led him to establish the Church of England, which is still the official state church of England today. Who was Henry VIII? The Tudor dynasty began in 1485, several years before Henry VIII was born. His father, King Henry VII, won the War of the Roses, ending the fight between the houses of Lancaster and York. He was related to the Lancaster family, but Henry VII was a Tudor. When he came to the throne, he started a new dynasty. The king and his wife had 4 children: Arthur, Margaret, Henry, and Mary. Arthur was the heir and married Catherine of Aragon, a Spanish princess. However, 5 months after their marriage, Arthur grew sick and died. Henry VII was determined to preserve a solid political connection with Spain, so he encouraged his other son, Henry, to marry Catherine, which he did in 1509. At this point, both England and Spain were still Catholic, so the political ties were advantageous. Henry VIII also became king in 1509. He was only 17 years old. At first, the country had high expectations for his reign because his father's rule had been stable. But although Henry VIII was intelligent, he appeared to have little interest in politics or running the nation. As such, Thomas Wolsey quickly gained power and became the Lord Chancellor in 1515. Wolsey was ambitious. His desires and Henry's interest in military exploits in Western Europe drained the royal coffers. Their attempts to raise taxes were met with resistance, making them both unpopular. However, not all Henry's early reign was characterized by military failures and unpopularity. The king also expanded the English navy. When he took the throne, there were 5 ships. By the time he was done, the navy had grown to 53 ships. Although this may seem like a small achievement to us today, it gave England the foundation it needed to later fight off the Spanish Armada and explore new lands across the globe. Why did he establish the Church of England? King Henry VIII was raised Catholic, an English tradition that stretched back to King Alfred the Great. The king even wrote a book defending the Catholic Church and arguing against Martin Luther. Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation in his attempts to improve the Catholic Church. It spread across Europe and caused religious and political issues. In 1521, Henry was still staunchly Catholic, and the Pope even named him Defender of the Faith. His decisions to break from Catholic tradition and establish a new church had little to do with his pious beliefs or concerns about recent Catholic scandals. Instead, his concerns were much more secular. He and Catherine of Aragon had been married for over 20 years, and Henry was growing desperate for a son. In his time, it was highly unusual for a woman to hold the throne. Henry didn't think they should inherit it at all. Catherine of Aragon had been pregnant several times, but had only one surviving child, Mary Tudor. The king was desperate for a male heir and began looking for a new and younger wife. Around 1526, he decided on Anne Boleyn. She realized the political game and insisted they had to marry before they did anything else. So, Henry asked Pope Clement VII to annul his first marriage. Technically, the king did not ask for a divorce. Divorces weren't permitted in the Catholic Church. However, the Pope did not pay much heed to this technicality and still refused to allow Henry to put aside his wife, Catherine. Pope Clement VII had political reasons for this. Catherine's nephew was Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. He was Western Europe's most powerful political leader, so the Pope tried to stay in his good graces. The Pope refused to give Henry the annulment. In response, Henry founded the Church of England, broke the country's connection to Catholicism, and separated from Catherine anyway, starting the English Reformation. In 1533, the king married Anne Boleyn, although historians argue about the exact date because some believe they had a secret wedding before her official one. Anne Boleyn is one of England's most famous queens, even though she only ruled for about 3 years. Historians are unsure when she was born. Speculations run from 1501 to 1507. She spent her teenage years in France and received a thorough education that included flirtation and developing a sharp wit. When she returned to England in either 1521 or 1522, she joined the royal court, where Anne's sister, Mary, was the king's current mistress. Mary did not gain much from the relationship, and Anne learned much that she applied when Henry turned his attention to her. Anne was spirited and witty, which attracted the king's eye and his hope for a son. 6 months after their official marriage, Anne gave birth to a little girl named Elizabeth Tudor. Henry was highly disappointed. The people who supported the English Reformation saw Elizabeth as a flaw in their religious cause, and the European Catholics viewed her as proof people should not discard Catholicism. It was a lot of pressure on a little girl. Her mother was under similar pressure to have a son. When Anne did not give birth again, Henry decided to get rid of her. Instead of a separation, though, he had her executed for treason in 1536. After Anne's death, King Henry VIII married Jane Seymour. She had served Catherine and Anne as a lady-in-waiting. She came from a respected family. Such positions were favorable during this time, especially for those who wanted the royal family's favor. By early 1536, Henry was openly courting Jane, determined to win her over with expensive presents and promotions for her brothers. Jane was quiet and prudent, often reminding the king of his wife, Anne Boleyn. After Henry had ordered Anne's execution, he married Jane, although she was never crowned queen, and she quickly became pregnant. Jane finally gave Henry the son he wanted. Edward Tudor was born on October 12, 1537. However, Jane died shortly afterward, leaving Henry hunting for another wife. Despite their short marriage, Jane appeared to have left a deep impression on Henry. He wore black into 1538 and waited 2 years before marrying his next wife. In total, Henry married 6 women throughout his life. Although he did accomplish other things that impacted England, he is most remembered today for starting the Church of England. Without meaning to, King Henry VIII brought the Protestant Reformation to England when he started the Church of England, even though he carried over many Catholic practices such as Mass and confession. Henry did not break with the Catholic Church over doctrine issues like other leaders during the Protestant Reformation, so his changes focused more on establishing his power and weakening the Catholic hold on the nation. In 1534, he passed the Act of Supremacy. This law placed Henry and all future English monarchs at the head of the Church. They no longer had to answer to the Pope. God was the only being with more power than the monarch. In 1536, King Henry VIII also dissolved the monasteries in England, and much of the wealth was absorbed into the king's treasury. The Church of England was a massive step in the Protestant Reformation. Although Henry did not establish all of the Anglican traditions practiced today, his work still laid the foundation others after him would use to solidify the Church of England and protect it from critics. Some of the people who had a significant influence on the Church's development were King Henry VIII's 3 surviving children. How did Henry's children affect the Church of England's development? Edward was the first to come to the throne. He became king in 1547 at only 9 years old and ruled until he was 15 when he died. Edward supported the Church of England during his short reign by helping Thomas Cranmer develop books for the Church. Some of these included the Book of Common Prayer and an English prayer book, which are foundational to the modern Anglican Church. Of course, King Edward VI was still a child while he ruled, so he had regents like Edward Seymour and Sir John Dudley, who encouraged many of the king's church directives. These changes established the Church of England as Protestant. For example, priests were allowed to marry, and communion was now representative instead of transforming into the body and blood of Christ. Both of these were significant differences from the Catholic faith. Catholics believed priests should remain celibate. They also believed that something happened during communion, transubstantiation. Catholic people believed the bread and the wine become the body and blood of Christ, even if it still looks like bread and wine. For Protestants, the communion elements only symbolize the body and blood of Christ, making for tension between the two religious sects. The attempts to unify the different Protestant voices in England were not successful. The Book of Common Prayer caused discord and protest among Catholics and Protestants alike, and there were several uprisings during King Edward VI's rule. Sadly, he died of illness in 1553, leaving behind a kingdom struggling to answer the religious questions that revolutionized how Europe viewed its Christianity. When Edward died, he left the throne to Jane Grey, his cousin. However, she only ruled 9 days before Mary Tudor took the throne by force. Unlike Edward, Mary was Catholic, and although she said she would respect the English Protestants, the Queen quickly showed she wanted to bring England back to Catholicism. Hundreds of Protestants died during her violent 5-year rule. Many were burned at the stake, and her violence earned her the nickname Bloody Mary, which is how she is most commonly remembered today. Mary died in 1558 without having any children, so the throne passed to the last of Henry VIII's children, Elizabeth Tudor. Although she also killed many for religious reasons, she is more well known for finding a balance between the Church of England and the Catholics still in the country. Under Queen Elizabeth I, Anglicanism became England's official religion. For her time, Elizabeth was impressively tolerant. She believed Catholics and Protestants could live peaceably together because they shared many of the same faith elements. She was less focused on forcing people to adopt certain creeds or books and was more interested in bringing peace to England once again. Unfortunately, when Catholic extremists put that peace at risk, Elizabeth had to choose between keeping order and tolerating all religious groups. Some of her policies and punishments against the Catholic extremists were harsh, but she also wanted the non-extremists to accept the Church of England. She did not implement many of the more liberal Protestant changes, such as removing the vestments or the choir music from the services. Instead, she left the Church of England as it was, whenever possible, to give her people time to accept it. Although Elizabeth was not a perfect ruler, she helped solidify the Church of England as the official religious body in the country. Her work has allowed the Church of England to thrive to this day, continuing to influence people worldwide. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the Church of England, check out our book, History of England, a captivating guide to English history, starting from antiquity through the rule of the Anglo-Saxons, Vikings, Normans, and Tudors to the end of World War II. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.